Hi there, I'm Josh. I'm a software engineer at Sunday Labs, and today I'm going to be discussing the Sunday Labs Amaru Node Developer Catalyst Proposal, specifically Milestone 4. So very similar to the previous milestones where we introduced new validation rules. In this milestone, the agreement was to introduce the final 4 of the agreed upon validation rules, which all involved validating witnesses. So the original proposal discusses 4 different validation rules, 2 for bootstrap witnesses and 2 for regular VKey witnesses. And this is how we first implemented this in Amaru. When we initially implemented this, there was different rules for VKey witnesses and bootstrap witnesses, as you can see here. Specifically, we were looking for the missing required VKey witnesses. So if there's anything that is not present that should be present as far as VKey witnesses, as well as invalid VKey witnesses. And it's the same thing for the bootstrap witnesses. Quickly, for those that don't understand, bootstrap witnesses are witnesses from addresses from the Byron era. Those are what are called bootstrap addresses. And so as you can see here in the bootstrap logic here, we also have the missing required bootstrap witnesses and the invalid bootstrap witness. Now, importantly, while this was the original plan, this is how we implemented it first, we actually discovered a bug that I have documented in depth here in the Cardano blueprint. It's still in a PR. We're working on getting this merged as we speak. But this describes the, not bug, but perhaps strange behavior or unexpected behavior that exists in the Haskell node, and that meant we'd have to process witnesses slightly differently than how we had laid it out previously to be consistent with the Haskell node. So without going into too much detail about what that unexpected behavior actually was, in short, you could create a bootstrap address that would allow you to not include a bootstrap witness and instead include a VKey witness based on the way that we're collecting witnesses in the Haskell node. And whether or not that's a bug, sort of unintended behavior, unexpected behavior, whatever it is now what happens on chain. It's important that we exactly match that to avoid any forks. What we actually did is we combined the VKey witness and the bootstrap witness errors into a single VKey witness error where we do both of the validations to make sure we're not missing any of those important signatures that would cause a fork between Amaru logic and Haskell logic. So while the proposal discusses 4, and we originally implemented it that way, you can see that in that PR that I shared previously. In today's Amaru, we only have this merged VKey witness. And we can take a look and see actually what the logic is going on and how this actually works below. So as you can see here, we're actually collecting our VKey witnesses and our bootstrap witnesses as we would together instead of separated. And we're actually collecting the required witnesses through our context that we build up through the process of validating other logic. So when we look at withdrawals, we look at inputs that are being spent, we look at governance actions, we look at certificates, we look at anything that will require a signature. We add that to our context, and now when we're doing our VKey witness validations, we can just pull all those required signers out. So regardless of whether or not it's a bootstrap address or not, we know what signature must exist. And so then we check to see if, based on what's provided and based on what we've determined is required, if there's anything missing, right? So if we have required keys or roots that are not present in our witness set, we then return that error that we discussed before, missing required keys or roots. We have discussed and we're considering combining or making this an individual error for each missing key instead of just having them all as once. That is sort of like implementation detail. It doesn't change the actual business logic at all. Now, we then validate the VKey witnesses, which are sort of the modern address witnesses. They're formatted slightly differently. And if there's any invalid signature present in those witnesses, we of course add that to our invalid witnesses, and then we return an error. Then we also do the same thing with our bootstrap witnesses. And again, if there are any invalid witnesses, we again return the error. So as you can see, we have combined everything, but the actual business logic hasn't changed other than the fact that we fixed that unintended behavior or unexpected behavior, and now it matches the Haskell node exactly. And then of course we have tests very similar to the last milestone that you saw. We again define our macro fixture, which collects all of the data we want for the test, so we don't have to rewrite all of this code every time. And as you can see, we have tests that we expect to run when the case is valid, in the case that we have an invalid signature length, invalid key length, missing spending VKey, etc. And we have a bunch of them, both for roots, both for VKey witnesses, everything. We have very good coverage of our logic here. And as you can see, everything is set up there and approved based on what the Amaru team expects. So I just want to say thank you again for taking the time to review this Catalyst proposal. I hope this has explained Milestone 4. And if you have any questions, please do let me know. Thanks. Have a good one.